Konnichiwa and welcome everybody back to Chrono Reviews. It's time for another dinosaur review, but this time it's actually something new. Well, for me at least, because they have been out for a while. But it's nothing less than the Beasts of the Mesozoic Raptor series by Creative Beast Studio. And I start off with the classic that most people go for and love, the Velociraptor Mongoliensis. And this is the black version. It came out in the second wave, I think. And I think I wanted this natural color scheme. The other one was nice too, but I sort of prefer this, so I got this one first. And this box is nice and gorgeous. As you can see, there is a artwork of the Velociraptor Mongoliensis there, and it's nice and shiny on the red text and stuff on the Beast of the Mesozoic logo. It's a 1:6 scale dinosaur action figure, and it got a lot of articulation. And on the bottom there is some scan codes and information. It's sculpted by David Silva, sculpted and painted by David Silva, and he's also working at NECA, I think, and I think this is a nice initiative that he's actually making those nice scientific dinosaur figures. And on the side there is the logo as well, and a nice sketchy picture of a raptor. And on the top there is also the logo for Beast of the Mesozoic, and there you can say it says 26 points of articulation, realistic movement and detail, display base and stand included. And on the back you can see different ones in the series, and there's also a collective card included, and there's some information about the species itself, which is really nice. You can also slide this off, and on this package you can see there's some other alternative raptors you can collect, because they show both the first and second waves on this back side of the package. And on the front, you can see more of the raptor if you remove this on the front. And I think it's a very nice thing that they do those figures. I never got around to support the Kickstarter because I sort of missed that out, and I sort of was close to pre-ordering one of those when they came out, but I never got around to it. But now I was sort of reminded when I went and find out their Ceratopsian Kickstarter, which I of course supported. I bought myself a Styracosaurus, and I might add a few more on the back of Kit Survey. So we'll see what I get. They will release sometime in a year, like next September or something. So it's a little bit of a wait, but I bet it will be worth it. So let's not delay more on the box and get straight into it. And here it is, the Velociraptor Mongoliensis out of the package. And I must admit I was really excited to open this up because, well, I've looked forward to those. Because having some scientific looking dinosaurs are not wrong. It's really nice. And I think it's important that people learn the recent science about dinosaurs. Even though it's cool that people like the classic, old school, scaly versions, but at the same time it's also nice to see that even the action figure and toys are evolving and becomes more up to date with the science, and I think that's an important aspect as well. And this one comes with the tail detached, so simply you press the tail in like this, and there it sticks on a ball joint. And you can also swap the position of the tail. There are two sockets if you want the tail raised or down, but I think it's most accurate to have it raised up like this. And before I go into the articulation and details of the figure, let's check all the accessories that comes with it. First off, this instruction sheet shows some things that you need to keep in mind. I'm just going through this with this first figure, because the other raptors, you will have to refer to this review to see that. So the tail, it says that you should just bring it not through the hole in case you damage the wider feathers at the rear. So you do it backwards with the slim part through the hole in the clam packages. And it also says that you can heat up the joints with a hairdryer or hot water if the joints are too stiff. And there it explains the socket thing that I just showed you, and you can replace the toes in order to swap for running pose or standing pose. And underneath the base you can attach the spare toes, and that's a neat thing actually. And attach body clip between hips for dynamic posing. So there are different parts for attaching under the chest area or the hips. I will get in that with the accessories just in a moment. There were also this backdrop in the packaging, and this one in particular were a little bit plain to me, not that interesting, but it's still a nice thing that it did there. And then we have the collector card, which is a nice piece of artwork. It's basically the same artwork that is on the package, and on the back there is this the information that was on the package as well. So if you want to keep this instead of the packaging, this is a nice way to do it. Right. There was another Raptor falling off the shelf. The Canon one, I think. Well, here is the base. So it's a sand base, like fitting the environment of the Velociraptor Mongoliensis with more desert areas. And there is a hole for attaching the rod, and I'll get into that right now. There are 3 lengths for jumping, and a lower one and a medium one for different posing and height. I think the original release only had one of those. I think it was the medium height, or maybe the short one even. I'm not sure. I will see that when I open some of the other Raptors later on. But there's also the different supports that you can attach to the rods. And there are, yeah, this is some that's curved, some add-on piece. And then there's the different toes. So these ones are a little bit slightly posed downwards, and the toes more close together, instead of having the toes more spread out like it have here. So this one is in contact with the ground. So now, while we're at it, let's get into detail on the figure itself. It's articulated, the head can move up and down on a ball joint, and there are some different sections of softer material that moves as you move it, like rubber parts, and you can move it quite well. It's a pretty nice movement there. And the torso can be moved slightly like this. And then there are ball jointed arms or wings. I think it's still called arms on a dinosaur, even though they have feathers. And you can move the hands up and down like this. So the wrists are not cronated like the Jurassic Park versions. They are more posed like they should on a scientific raptor, so you can move it up and down like this, and then you can angle the arm itself like that. And the legs are also ball jointed, so you can move them quite nicely like this. And there are knee joints, and then there's a joint here, and you can move the foot itself up and down, and you can angle the toes like this. And then there's the sickle claw, which can move up and down, so you can have it in attack mode downwards or put upwards. And then there's this attachable and detachable part of the tail that can also move like a ball joint, and the tail itself can move like a ball joint. And then the tail is in a bendable material with a wire. It's not too scientifically accurate to turn it too much, but you can do it if you want to. I will keep it just slightly turned depending on what poses I need. So let's try and attach the Raptor to the base. If you have a low pose on the wing though, you can actually have it stand without the base, but the wing are bendable, so it will like sink down a little bit. You can see how the Raptor are sinking slowly. Yeah, it bends down like that. Alright, not the most stable pose, but I switched out to this leg running, and this leg being in contact, and I pose it with one of the rods, and I use the chest rod for this one. I think it's dynamic. You can do a lot of dynamic poses. You just have to figure out the balance point of the raptor itself, because they're not like, it's not like a pig, it's just leaning on it, so you need to balance it properly. So now let's compare this in size to some different figures. So first off, here's the reborn Velociraptor, and this one is Velociraptor based on the Jurassic Park designs, of course, so they are not really in scale with each other, but you can see a little bit of a hunch how big this is. And then there is also the Mattel Velociraptors right there. And then we have the poor bastard that fell off the shelf while I worked with this one, and that's the Kenner Velociraptor. So here's the size for that. And then we have both Kenner and Mattel Alan Grant. So if you want a big fat Velociraptor that looks scientific, you can use it with the Kenner figures. But I will display it with my fossils and together with other scientific dinosaurs. And then we have something to go in scale with this raptor, and that is the Real Action Heroes Black Rock Shooter figure, which I think are supposed to be 1/6 scale. Let me just rearrange this a little bit. I think she's supposed to be 1/6 scale, so it should scale up. It should be a good scale, but since an anime character is an anime character, not 100% realistically proportioned. But as far as I know, the Real Action Heroes figures are supposed to be 1/6 scale, and I think it looks good together. I think this is pretty much my idea of how big a Velociraptor in real life would be. So I'd say that this is pretty damn close, and I think they did a good job at scaling it. I should have had one of those Hot Toys human figures to scale with the Raptor. That would be the most perfect comparison, but this is the best I have. But it gives you a sort of hint on the size of this 1/6 scale Velociraptor. And I'm pleased with it. I'm pleased with that. Let's just get back to the Raptor here. So it's quite big. It's not that small. It's like slightly bigger than the Kenner ones and stuff, so it is a great figure. And I forgot to go into the paint applications at the start of the review, so I'm going to go into that too before summing this review up. It's quite basic colors on this one because it's black and browns, but there's some nice dry brushing and some toning on the feathers. And the mouth have some nicely detailed painting on the tongue. The tongue is also articulated, by the way, together with the jaw. And the eyes are nicely and cleanly painted. It gives off the nice natural look of a bird that's not too colorful, but since it's a predator, it should want to blend in. Some of the dry brushing seems slightly sloppy, but as a full picture, it does look very nice. And I started off with the Mongoliensis because it's a classic. It's a must-have classic for Velociraptor fans. Although some of the other ones had a lot more interesting colors. And I will get into that as I progress with reviewing the bunch I just got. So what can I say? This is my first impression of the Beast of the Mesozoic, and I really like it. And this is definitely not my last Raptor. I have a few more and I want a Ceratopsian, so they have me there. So I highly recommend this, or any other of the Raptors, for depending on which one is your favorite. The articulation are basically the same. I will though go over a couple more of those, so look forward to that. So until next time, take care and sayonara.